Alright, so 3.1 definitions part 2, we're going to talk about central tendencies. Now, what does central tendencies mean? It means we're talking about the middle of the data, the average of the data that's centered. It's a great way of estimating where things are. Now, we're very familiar with mean, median, and mode because we were hit with those like a brick in the head back in 7th, 8th grade as part of the California State Standards. But let's repeat them because they need repeating. For the mean, we're going to add them all up and then divide by the total. Now, the book is going to introduce notation where you're going to add x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus ... plus x lowercase n or capital N, which is all of the individual elements in your set, and then you're going to divide by the total number, which was n. Then later on it abbreviates that to be the sum of all the x's divided by n. Alright, next up you have the median. The median is the middle. So if you take your highest to lowest values in your data set and you go in from the outsides in, whatever is in the middle is literally your median value. If it happens that your set has an even number, then what you do is you take the average of those two data points to get what the median would be. Alright, next up is mode, which is the most, and this is where it starts getting different from what you had before. Mode does mean whatever happens the most. So you can have one mode, also known as unimode. You can also have two modes where there's two humps on the data when you look at it, in which case it'd be bimodal. You can have more than two humps, that's what we call it multimodal. Or there could be no mode, right? That's if none of the data repeats itself. Alright, and lastly, one you've probably never seen before is the mid-range. It's the middle of the data where you take the average of your highest and your lowest. So you add those up and divide by 2. Sorry, let's get that in the picture. So there you go. Those are the ways that we can describe or calculate central tendencies. For the most part, we are only going to be focusing on the mean for what we do in this class, but that's not to say we ignore completely median or the middle of the data. If we're talking about housing costs, we talk about the median a lot because let's say you're looking in a neighborhood and there's 10 houses, you might have one house that's selling for $1 million and the rest of the houses are selling for 200, 300,000. That $1 million house is going to pull your average higher than what the actual middle of the data states. So the mean is not a good indicator of the middle of the data in that case. Outliers, which we'll talk about later in chapter 3, can skew your data. If you remember when we talked about skewed right and skewed left, that's when the mean is pulled away from the median and you have right skewed or left skewed, where the mean was to the right of the median for right skewed, where the mean is to the left of the median and that was left skewed. So we will use these terms a little bit, but like I said, mainly we'll focus on the mean for what we do with statistics.